It's been a little over a month since we drove the brand new 8th generation 992 series Porsche 911 Coupe, but now the derivatives are arriving. First up is the Cabriolet. It's 70 kilograms heavier than the Coupe, and the fabric roof takes 12 seconds to fold up or down at speeds of up to 30 miles an hour. It costs £9,645 more than its sibling, and for now there are just two versions on offer: the rear-wheel drive Carrera S for just under £103,000 and the four-wheel drive Carrera 4S for £108,000. So it's a new 911 and a convertible one at that. What's the big deal? But this 992 generation 911 Cabriolet is so good, it'll make people who absolutely hate these types of cars fall in love with it. Why? Well, there's a number of good reasons for that. The first is the engine. Now, it's still the same 3-litre turbocharged flat 6, but it's got a really nice character to it. It's still obviously a turbocharged engine. It sounds like a turbo and it goes like a turbo as well, but it's a type of engine you really have to work hard with, and it's got a bit of character to it. It really does get into its stride at about 5,000 RPM, and then it just really comes alive. It's just lovely. While some may point out that the engine's basic dimensions are the same as the old 991.2, it's had a thorough going over. There are larger turbos with cast intake manifolds, new piezo fuel injectors and different air intakes. All of this allows the 992 in Carrera S form to push out 444 brake horsepower and 500 Nm of torque, 30 brake horsepower more than the old 911 Carrera S, and the same amount of power the previous 911 GTS could muster. Porsche claims this 4S Cabriolet covers 0 to 62 miles an hour in 3.6 seconds. That's 3.4 with a £1,600 Sport Chrono Pack fitted. That's ludicrously fast for a standard four-wheel drive 911. Even faster GTS and turbo cabriolets will arrive later, so you can't help but think that now, more than any other time in the 911's history, the standard car is plenty quick enough, and the one to have. The second reason why you'll love this car is the gearbox. Now, it's a new 8-speeder, and it really does fire through the gears, fires down them as well, and there will be a manual along in due course, which of course is the one that the purists will want, me included, but I can see why you'd go for the PDK because it is just so damn good. And you get these lovely metal paddles as well on this new steering wheel. It's just a lovely, lovely bit of kit. But the best thing about this car is the way it corners, because the chassis on this car is absolutely remarkable. Now, we've got the optional sport chassis on this car, so it lowers it by 10mm. But even if you go for the standard chassis, this thing corners so beautifully, so flat. And it's topped off with steering that is absolutely delicious. Yes, it's an electronic system. No mechanical system here whatsoever, as you'd expect in this day and age. But as electrical systems go, this one is absolutely marvellous. The weighting on it is lovely. It's so progressive. There's quite a bit of feel through it as well. It's just so much fun, this car. But I have to say, the 911's character is changing somewhat, because whereas the old 991 felt as though it was trying desperately hard to be like a traditional old style sort of 911, they've started with a clean sheet of paper for this car, and it is sort of morphing into a Grand Tourer, this car, and that's not a bad thing, because this car does feel incredibly refined, incredibly luxurious. In fact, this feels the most luxurious a 911 has ever been. And yet it can still put an enormous smile on your face. And you do have to wonder, why on earth would you consider anything else?
To say the new Cabriolet is just a coupe with the roof locked off is ignoring how much of an evolution the 992 series is from its predecessor. Yes, it shares its platform with the 991, but the shell is completely new and comes in just one wide-tipped form with a 45mm wider front track. And for the first time on a standard non-RS 911, the wheels are different sizes, 20 inches at the front and 21s for the rears.
Now the Cabriolet is 70 kilograms heavier than the Coupe, and the Coupe in turn is around 50 kilograms heavier than the old 991. But it doesn't really feel that heavy to drive this car. You can just fling it into corners and it just grips and grips and grips, and it feels incredibly agile as well. Now when you lock the roof off a coupe, you get that typical shudder, you get that little shake. I'm going to slip into that typical motoring journalism speak and say this car's got scuttle shake, but honestly, it really hasn't. If you go for the sport chassis, which gives slightly stiffer suspension, you get a little bit of a wobble, but only over the roughest ground. Generally speaking, this car feels incredibly rigid and incredibly well sorted. You know, I said this car's starting to feel way more luxurious than it ever has done. Well, one of the reasons for that is this interior, because it is absolutely gorgeous. It's lovely to look at. It's totally different from any other 911 because it's very horizontal. The last few previous generations of 911, they've had a large sort of centre stack, and here it's all about the horizontal sort of look and feel to the dash, and it just is lovely. You've got the big infotainment screen there that works beautifully like we've come to expect with the Panamera and the Cayenne, and you've got this little centre console here which, unlike the Panamera and the Cayenne, isn't festooned with buttons. It's just got the bare minimum. And in front of you, it's really nice as well. You've got your traditional analogue rev counter clock right in front of you, which is gorgeous, but it's flanked by these two screens that sort of bend outwards, and the whole thing just works beautifully. And the build quality in here, now, I mean, the 911 really is £100,000 car these days, and this interior does feel befitting of a car of that price tag. It is absolutely lovely in here, and it's so comfortable. This driving position, it's probably one of the best in the business, actually. And it does that thing which all 911s have always done so well. Everything just feels so familiar. It feels so comfortable. It doesn't feel threatening or intimidating to sit and drive this car at all. It feels almost as easy as stepping into a VW Golf. It feels easy and comfortable. Now, the 992 generation is obviously a gentle evolution of the 991. I mean, we all know that 911s pretty much all look identical over the years, apart from the back of this car, because the back looks very different from any other 911. It, especially in Cabriolet form, it looks absolutely enormous at the back. Very bulbous, very large, and one thing I would go for, a top tip here, is to go for the Sports Design Pack, because it moves the number plate from the lower valance up onto the bumper. The whole rear end looks a lot cleaner. If you don't go for it, you'll get this large rear bumper with really plain surfacing, and it just looks plain odd. It just reminds me of sort of when you get into your 30s and you're not quite as trim as you were in your 20s, and you start to get that little sort of muffin top, don't you? It sort of splurges out over the top of your jeans, and that's what it looks like if you don't go for the sport pack. I'm obviously speaking from experience there, because I'm just about to turn 30 and the top of my chinos are starting to show some extra skin. But anyway, I've gone off on one. Another thing I'd go for are some bright colours. This lizard green looks absolutely sensational, although these belts, these matching belts, are probably a little bit debatable. But I think the cab looks fantastic in bright colours. The coupe lends itself to some more subtle colours, but the cab looks fantastic in racing yellow, Miami blue, and this green.
The colour of the seat belts is just one of the ways you can personalise your 911. There are a myriad of different wheel colours, interior trims, body styling bits and pieces, and different coloured fabric roofs. This test car, with its various options, comes in at over £130,000.
Now we come on to the ultimate question. Has Porsche pulled another masterstroke? Well, it's not going to come as much of a surprise to you really, because I've been pretty complimentary about this car so far, haven't I? But they've done it again. It makes all other cars in this class seem woefully sort of inadequate. And it makes other cars feel as though they're just brimming with flaws. This car feels almost perfect. It really is that good.
Has that whetted your appetite? Well, click the video window on the left for our new 911 Coupe review, and on the right for some nostalgia as the 911 GT3 RS takes on the Cayman GT4. Click the Auto Express logo to subscribe to the channel, and as ever, thanks for watching.